Well, hello and welcome to another Faith, Philosophy and Life with me, Mr. Shelton. I do hope that you are doing well. We're doing a unit on war and peace at the moment, and I think the picture behind me kind of gives you an idea of what it is that we're talking about today. I wonder how many nuclear bombs there have been that have ever gone off. I'm not just talking about in combat, fortunately. I wonder what you know about the image behind me as well. Where have the two nuclear bombs that have gone off gone off? And who released them? How many countries in the world have nuclear weapons? But these are all things that we're going to think about. Have a think about them, because here's our cheesy intro sequence. Okay, so let's just get some of those questions that I threw at you at the start answered. So there has been only two nuclear bombs that have actually ever been dropped, one at Hiroshima and one at Nagasaki. These happened at the end of World War II. The only country to have actually ever used a chemical nuclear weapon is America. Other countries do have them. In fact, it's thought that there's between 7 and 9 countries around the world who actually do currently own nuclear weapons. Might be worth finding out who they are, but the UK is one of them, which is what we're going to think about a little bit later as well. So our title today, and as always you will need to pause me as we go, is nuclear warfare ever acceptable? Is nuclear warfare ever acceptable? And today we're going to explore if nuclear warfare should be allowed. We're going to write an extended balance piece of writing as well. That's what we're doing during today's session. As I say, always do pause me and do photograph any of your work, send it through to your teachers, because we'd love to see what you've done. It's going to be a good outcome if you can explain what nuclear warfare is and give one reason for and against it. It's going to be great if you can explain or investigate arguments for and against nuclear warfare, reflecting on Christian belief, and even better if we can speculate if there are any times that nuclear warfare could actually be ever acceptable and justify that view as well. So our literary skill is extended writing. We're going to be doing a reflective practitioner activity. We'll be thinking a little bit about what we think and why, and and we'll be thinking about what's socially and morally acceptable. So during today's session, we've got some information on nuclear war, a big question, and then we'll review that as well. I want to just start with some pictures here. There we go. I wonder if you have got any idea. I'm just going to flick through these. What do you think happened in these pictures? I'm going to go through these fairly quick, but if there is something you want to spend longer at, then just pause me, and then you'll be able to have a close look at the images. Okay, in class there'd always be a lot of discussion with these images where people try to work out what they think happened. They'd be unpacking these images. Quite shocking images, as you can see. A swimming pool that's got no water in. There's another image of it. A hospital room maybe. A lecture theatre possibly. Maybe a school. They're all images of a place called Chernobyl, which had a nuclear disaster. It was a place there, a nuclear power plant blew up, and it caused an immeasurable amount of loss of life, and also continues to cause issues with life today. And that's just a nuclear power plant that went wrong. Behind me you can see images of nuclear warfare. You've got an image of Hiroshima behind me directly, and the effects of that, and the idea that nuclear warheads now don't need to be dropped from aeroplanes. That image on the second image at the top there, they can be put on missiles and sent around the world at a moment's notice. It's quite a scary thought, and we're going to be doing some more thinking about that now, but I wanted just to give you the idea of the effect that nuclear warfare could have before we start to investigate it a little bit more. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to do a little for and against table. Okay, so I would like you, without looking at anything else at this point, to come up with arguments for and against nuclear warfare. So pause me now while you try and come up with reasons that you can think of why nuclear warfare may be acceptable and why it may not be acceptable. Why might the use of a nuclear warhead, a nuclear bomb, ever be an appropriate thing to do, and what could the arguments be against it? So pause me now while you do that, and then come back to me. Okay, so with the eagle-eyed of you, you will have noticed a big yellow thing there that I've put in. That's a link to a BBC website. I'd like you to access that. That will go through with you information about the UK's nuclear arsenal, something called the Trident missile program that we have, where we actually have nuclear weapons in the UK on submarines around the world, rather than necessarily fixed points in the UK as a deterrent being something that's there to scare other countries. So have a look at that article now. You'll need to pause me, you'll need to type all that in, and have a good read over that, and that will also give you arguments for and against nuclear warfare as well that you can add to your table. So do that and then come back to me. Okay, so the next thing then that I'd like to think about is biblical references. Now, to be honest, the Bible doesn't really talk about nuclear warfare, as I'm sure you probably imagine. But what it does do is it uses phrases like an eye for an eye. I wonder where you'd put that, an eye for an eye. It uses phrases like treat others as you'd like to be treated. It uses phrases like love your neighbour. 7 times 70 you should forgive. Turn the other cheek. All of those are ones that you could put within your table. So try and get some of those written down now. And I've got another clip to show you now that hopefully will work. I'm going to play this to you, and this might give you some more things to write in your table for and against nuclear warfare. So let's just watch this now, and I will warn you that there may be some disturbing scenes in this.
Of August 6th, Japanese time, the first atomic bomb hit an enemy target.
From 29,000 feet, the Hiroshima explosion looked like a giant candy floss. But down below there were real people, tens of thousands of them, burning alive.
What happened to you when the bomb exploded?
I was surrounded by
8-year-old Keiko Ogura saw them with her own eyes. Horrors she can never forget. Outside her house, the survivors began to gather, their faces burned and swollen. They begged for water.
Their skin was peeling off and hanging. And at first, I saw some, and I thought they were holding something, or the rag or something. But that was really skin.
Here's a building that was actually knocked sideways.
US news reports at the time described only the physical damage to the city. No mention was made of the thousands dying from burns and radiation. This colour footage of victims taken in 1946 was classified until the 1980s. When later she went to the United States, Keiko found Americans knew little of the horrors that she'd witnessed.
I was told by American citizens, congratulations, you could come here thanks to the bombing, they said. Without the bombing, you have to do harakiri, kill yourself. It is a very awful excuse. Because of that, you save your life, and then we drop the bomb. We should not use excuse, such kind of excuse.
When that cigar-shaped bomb exploded 500 meters up above this spot, it killed between 100 and 150,000 people. The conventional wisdom outside Japan is that the destruction of this city was a necessary evil that brought an abrupt end to the war. But is it now time for the outside world, and particularly America, to rethink that conclusion?
But this is so close to the
Today, this group of students from Princeton University is for the first time coming face to face with a Hiroshima survivor and the horrors she witnessed.
We're taught this narrative that, this great scientific instrument was dropped on Hiroshima, there was a flash and the war ended. But it's just been so surreal and I think in a lot of ways tragic to see that nightmare is being relived by people kind of every day and by the city every single day. So that really, really moved me, and I'm still grappling with that.
Today I was really taken aback, especially, just the very first image in the museum is the model of the people whose, skin is dripping off, and I've never seen anything like that. And for me, it was really hard to see, honestly, being an American and knowing that this is something that happened.
No sitting US president has ever visited Hiroshima or Nagasaki, and President Obama will not be here on Thursday. In World War II, so much horror was committed by all sides, not least Japan. But it's not the only country that has trouble facing its own World War II history. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News, in Hiroshima.
Okay, so what we said we'd do is a good outcome would be you could explain what nuclear warfare is and give a reason for and against it. Hopefully you've got quite a few reasons around your table now. Great if you can investigate arguments for it, reflect on Christian belief, and I've talked you through a few things there, and even better if we can speculate if there's any times that nuclear warfare could ever be acceptable. And that's really where we're going to go now to sort of end this session with. So it's a big question for you to answer, and you've got the rest of this lesson in order to answer it. And the question is this: the use of nuclear bombs are never acceptable. The use of nuclear bombs are never acceptable. Do you agree? Give reasons or evidence for your answer using quotes, Christian and ethical teaching. So you may need to do a little bit of research on this. You don't have to use the format that's behind me. Those are just things for you to think about. If you know Farmy, you could be doing for, against, rebuttal, my opinion, and if everyone. And let's get a decent piece of work done on this. Obviously, spend the time to do a bit more research if you need to. But I'm going to leave that there for today. Thanks very much for your time. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. Wash hands. God bless you. And hopefully we never need to worry about nuclear bombs again. And on that bombshell, terrible phrase. See you soon.